EV revolution had a poster child, it would be none other than Kartikey Hariyani, founder and CEO of Chargezone.
From building cutting-edge EV charging solutions to driving India's transition to clean mobility, Kartikey is turning ideas into real-world impact and fast.
And let's be honest, if your car is in charge, you're probably wishing he was your BFF.
Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Kartikey Hariyani, the man who's keeping India moving one charge at a time.
Moderating this discussion will be NDTV Profits Managing Editor, Tamanna Inamdar. A huge round of applause, please.
Okay, so I've had an opportunity over the last 2 days to understand and spend some time with Kartikey, getting a sense of what an important part of the EV ecosystem comes from what Chargezone does. And it's crucial because even as EV adoption is growing at a frenetic pace, the question that people have in mind when they're looking at buying an electric vehicle is always, charging mein dikkat to nahi hogi. And this is where the answer is. Just for your information, Chargezone has 70% of the market share of EV charging. That's quite a feat. Kartikey, let's start today by understanding the Chargezone ecosystem, what this company is and what you aim to do.
All right. So, Chargezone solves EV charging or range anxiety for EV owners. This idea was created in the year 2017. It came into being in the summer of 2018 when Government of India declared EV charging as a consumer service and kept it away from the clutches of power trading regulations. And that was, I still vaguely remember, probably around mid-April evening, we created Chargezone as a name, as a brand. And then we had a kind of a sort of a pre-COVID journey as well, plus post-COVID too. But in the beginning, we started solving EV charging for fleet customers, for electric buses and electric cars in those days. Post-COVID, various format of vehicles came in. And then we decided to focus on creating high-speed charging corridors for four-wheelers or large format commercial EVs, including cars, buses, and now even trucks for corporate customers, for fleet customers, for individual customers, and so on. And today, we have emerged to be India's largest EV charging network with almost 14,000 charging points across the country. Yeah.
So you are solving for, you said you're solving for anxiety of those who have electric vehicles.
Yeah.
So is it feasible right now to buy an electric vehicle and not worry that if you run out, where is the closest petrol pump? Are we there yet?
We're already there yet, yeah. Thanks to various ecosystem players, it's not just us, our peers, our competitors in the market, plus our other stakeholders, that is the electric car OEMs, electric vehicle OEMs, who have started investing or co-investing into EV charging stations by putting the valuable capex in the city hubs, on highway stations, and so on. So I must say one thing. This was probably the answer would have been a mixed one last year, maybe this time last year. But today I can say with confidence that go and buy an electric car. And yes, if you face a range anxiety, just call me. Yeah.
Okay, we'll be putting his number out after this
Why not?
show.
Yeah, all right.
I just want to understand a bit about your journey as well, Kartikey, because you started, you're a trained electrical engineer. Yeah. You started out with a very, very stable corporate job with a large conglomerate, and then you've taken this leap. Is entrepreneurship something you've always dreamed of, and what made you take that risk?
Yeah. So what prompted me was something during my university days that probably during the journey, we'll like to create something very innovative, something from scratch, something, well, Atmanirbharta is probably a new name that is trending, but 20, 25 years ago, it was always there as an instinct that can I really put my knowledge into a practical use and help technology come to the masses. Now, that was a very high-level, blurred vision, I would say, for myself. And well, the journey started in 2010 as an entrepreneur. It was into renewable energy. While EV ecosystem I came across the EV ecosystem, or rather EV ecosystem picked me and my team then to solve for the masses in terms of technology adoption. And today when we talk about EV charging, it is nothing but a network of so-called petrol pumps, which does not sell molecules, but it sells electrons. And I'm glad that that blurred vision came into reality in the middle of last decade. But today, every day, I feel that it's a day one to do something new, something more creative.
No, but you know, it's not an easy decision at that time because you worked with a large infrastructure company, and you know, in case you want to give those details, what made you give up that very, very secure job? How did your family take it? What was the reaction then?
Well, I won't recommend that again to anybody, to be honest. Yeah. When you have a house on mortgage and the baby is just born. So I've also been accompanied by my co-founder and my beautiful wife, Kinnari, here. But let's put it this way. Sometimes there's always a push and the pull factor here. In a large corporate setup, you may want to do a lot of things, but then you are being confined into probably systems, sometimes processes, even bureaucracy as well. But having said that, it was a spur of moment decision, to be honest.
Spur of the moment.
Yeah, I would.
I
this is the reason I say I wouldn't.
I wonder how you reacted, man. I would love to hear. Spur of the moment decision.
Absolutely,
I think definitely that's as much credit to her that, you know, she was okay with this.
Yeah,
wow,
she was
that's
okay.
Amazing.
After 10 years, yes, she's okay now. Yeah. All right. But as one of my friend had quoted, he says, as an entrepreneur, there are three things. Much has been spoken about. First two, hard work and passion. But third is access to capital. And I must say one thing. I'm the product of the new policy of the current government, which has started somewhere in 2016-17. Startup India, Stand Up India as one of them. But the time of being an entrepreneur is now in this country, in this market, where there were time, the access to capital was only through public markets, but it's extremely difficult for first-time entrepreneurs, first-time businessmen, first-time promoters like me. But I must say that since 2021 onwards, I think there has been no dearth of capital. In fact, there's dearth of ideas or even dearth of lack of skill of execution. But certainly there's no longer dearth of capital anymore.
That's amazing. You know, you have to contextualize this. When we listen to slogans, Stand Up India, Start Up India, you wonder what it is. What is it going to actually lead up to? Here's a living example. And I think that's very impressive, and it's also inspirational to people out there, because this current generation, for you it was a tough call. I think this current generation is not necessarily interested in getting a cushy job and spending the next 25 years there.
Sure.
They want to achieve what you have. What is your advice for them?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, probably 30% of our workforce are already millennials. Yeah, and now the Gen Zs are also coming in. And I can see that they are brimming with very good ideas. In fact, they need an environment, a team that they can bounce upon their ideas, work upon them, have a factor of encouragement to test and experiment those ideas and go after it. Yeah, that was probably not the case even 15 years ago, I would say. Yeah.
Now, it's acceptable now to take those risks.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's right.
I want to talk a bit about the EV ecosystem because you are an integral part of it. You know, you're the last mile. We can talk all we want about being safe in terms of energy as a nation, being reliant, etc., not having to import as much. But is the EV ecosystem really here to stay, or is it a bit of hype? Now, yesterday, we had a very prominent speaker on this platform that talked about the EV system, saying it's a bit of a hype. This individual said EV car is like a toy car. What would be your response?
Yeah. So obviously, if you're driving to your office in a Lambo or a Ferrari every day, for sure, any other car will look like a toy car, yeah. But let's zoom out a bit. Let's pause for a second now and see, as a nation, as a citizen of this country, 80% of our energy needs are still imported. This is a matter of fact. Crude oil is getting imported, coal is imported, and so on. Now, when you talk about electric mobility, there are two parts of it, right? There is a vehicle or a product, and then there is a fuel. Market is there, of course. Yeah, there are people. Yeah. But when we look at the fuel part, let's start addressing the easier part of it. Electricity is produced from various sources in the country. Renewable energy contributes almost 20 to 25% of the daily needs of we Indians. Now, when in a country like us, where we are blessed by sun gods and wind gods, both Surya Deva and Varun Deva, that is solar and wind, I don't think we should be holding ourselves back in terms of creating more sources, more alternatives for electricity for this market, or for our country rather. Now, talking about the product, well, automobile engineering or automotive industry has been around for the last 100 years. I don't know if most of you or some of you might be aware that around 120 years ago, actually there was the first car that came was also, or one of the first few cars that came was also an electric car. Yeah. So but somehow for some reason it got dominated by, the industry got dominated by oil and gas, that's petrol and diesel. But now let's fast forward in the current decade or the current year context. For our country, these products of, that is electric vehicles, are being produced to, I won't say a mass scale yet, but certainly the penetration of new vehicles has touched 5% as of last quarter. Which means if you look at or pick up any OEM in the country, you will find that they have at least one electric vehicle as a product. Whether it's a two-wheeler, three-wheeler, car, or a bus, or even a truck now.
Even the most hesitant ones have. You're right. And, you know, we speak to, on NDTV Profit, we speak to OEMs, auto companies all of the time. Even the most hesitant ones.
Yes.
The largest player by volume has, you know, reluctantly decided that they have to come in with an electric car. Have you seen that adoption also go up? Because the numbers that we track show that EV adoption has zoomed.
Okay. So I think this question can be asked to the audience here. So you've been seeing more green number plates these days than, let's say, a year ago. And from the charging point of view, we measure, we eat, drink, breathe electrons every day. Yeah. Just be careful that we don't get, you know, electrified. But obviously, when we talk about the consumption on our network has steadily been growing. In fact, we have seen a 10% growth month on month since February this year.
10% growth in usage?
In usage of our charging station, 10% month on month. Now, this was very incredible. In fact, we were also surprised because for the last 3 years, we saw most of the announcements. We saw there were newsreels, there were people talking about EV charging, people being skeptical about it and so on. But end of 24, a lot changed. And one of the major factors was the cost of batteries. The cost of battery cells, which is a basic raw material for battery packs, came down by almost 50%. And that made the TC, or total cost of ownership, to be extremely competitive compared to the cost of EV, which was, say, let's say, in the beginning of 23 or 24. Yeah.
Having said that, allow me to play devil's advocate.
Yeah, sure.
Because since you are obviously so, you know, you're living, breathing the idea of electric vehicles, let me take the reverse position on this. Yeah. It costs more.
Yeah.
An EV vehicle still costs more. And if it's a four-wheeler, it's nearly 1.5 to 2 times we were talking about on an average cost more.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, people should love the environment, but they don't want to pay out of it from their pocket.
Correct.
How do you solve for that?
All right. So let's address the elephant in the room. Yeah. When a few minutes ago, I did mention about energy needs and other things. Now let's understand the personal priority and the national priority or the business priority. Well, the product or EV car or EV bus or a truck for that matter is definitely almost twice more expensive. There are new models of cars which are also now becoming very competitive, which has bought to a very striking distance of 1.3 times or 1.5 times expensive. But the real thing is the arbitrage between the cost of running or OPEX unit economics of diesel or ICE vehicles versus electric. I'll give you a small example. If you're driving a petrol or diesel car, it will cost 8 to 10 rupees per kilometer as a mileage. While when you buy an electric car and if you're charging at home, it is less than 1 rupee per kilometer. It's a matter of fact. If you use our public charging network, then it is probably 2.5 to 3 rupees per kilometer. So there's a roughly 70 to 80% of savings on the OPEX cost, the running cost of your vehicle. When you look at a commercial vehicle, well, we have another platform called Billion Electric Mobility. My colleague Sanjeev, who is the CEO of Billion Electric, And we just reached a fleet size of 100 trucks, both 55-tonner and 19-tonner. And well, today, our customers are paying exactly the same cost of diesel on a per kilometer basis as much as for electric, which means on a TCO basis or a total cost of ownership, the arbitrage of diesel versus electricity tilts the balance in the favor of EVs. Let us also understand that there are multiple factors why we as a country need to adopt e-mobility or more of electric vehicles. And the first and foremost factor has been obviously reducing the carbon footprint, as I said. But let me give you another data point. So if by 2030, which also government has envisioned, if by 2030, if there are 30% of vehicles being electric, we'll be saving enough dollars. There's up to 80 to 90 billion dollar of forex reserves, which will fund the education and healthcare budget of this country. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So instead of your or my priority for buying an electric, I guess it should be a national priority for various business houses, various corporates to push for electric adoption.
But then on an individual level, someone needs to facilitate that. Yeah. Either it's the business house or the corporate, or it is the government, because an individual will look. But in the calculation that you provided, clearly, if it's costing you 1/3 in terms of fueling your car, then that makes a difference. Point number 2, or question number 2. How sure can you be of ensuring that you will be able to charge your car if you're moving out of mega cities?
Correct.
If you don't live in a Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru, you live in a remote location. Why should I have an EV? I'm not sure if I will. Even electricity is not as consistent there, the supply of electricity.
Absolutely. Yeah, let me try to answer your question in 2 parts. So I can vouch for your personal mobility because Tamanna, I know you live in Mumbai and you don't buy a car only to move around Mumbai. Of course, you might be taking car only once in a year to Pune, but yet you want that reliability part, the range anxiety to be solved and so on. But let me put it this way. Since Jan 25, this has been our data from our network. There were roughly 100,000 new electric car owners got added onto our network. And every 45th day, they are coming onto a charging network on a highway, which means an electric car is no longer your second car. But maybe it may not be the first car yet, but it is slowly becoming your most preferred car to navigate not only within the city, but also in the suburbs, and also to take a plunge on a short intercity travel, maybe Delhi-Jaipur or Delhi-Dehradun even. And for that matter, Chargezone has electrified more than 40,000 highway kilometers in the country. In fact, you can drive from Amritsar to Chennai using our network without any range anxiety issue. Wow. Now, which also means that, and it's not just us, as I said, there are other players who have also enabled some of the highway locations and so on. And we truly understand the psychology of an electric car owner that, well, I've not just bought this as a city car, but I want to go out of station. But there's another challenge, is a grid reliability issue. Well, if you talk about grid reliability, it's not just about our country. I've seen many developed countries. I've been, for the last 10 years, I've traveled probably more than 35 countries around the world. And I've seen basic problems related to applied electrical engineering, transmission issues, distribution issues, and so on. And I must say that this problem is now getting solved by battery energy storage. And earlier, we believed that a battery energy storage is only to solve the grid reliability issue. But if you see some of the screen, some of the slides which are just on my background, there is an RE adoption with battery energy storage. If you combine RE and battery energy storage, you are actually bringing a very compelling factor to the equation itself. So today, most of those charging stations are now getting backed by battery energy storage, but they are not just for grid reliability issue, but also we are bringing RE into the equation, which also means the EV is now more cleaner, more better than it was before.
So how do you see this moving forward? You talked about 40,000 kilometers of highways that you have now electrified.
That's right.
At what speed and pace does this grow? where there is enough security of someone who has an electric vehicle, whether it's for commercial purposes or personal use, to move out without worry. What is that timeline that you see? And since you are the dominant player in this space, what does it mean for the ecosystem?
Yeah. So for the ecosystem, okay, let's put it this way. There are several CPOs. Our industry is called a CPO industry, charge point operators. And there are more than probably 10 different players in different parts of the country setting up charging stations and enabling the e-mobility journey for electric customers like such as maybe yourself or even the futuristic customers such as yourself. And I must say that out of the 19,000 zip codes, there are more than 60% of the zip codes that has already been enabled by EV charging infrastructure, which means that you can actually go for mid-mile distances, as I said, like 300, 400 kilometers, even without blinking, or you can take a decision that, well, I can go and drive to the nearest city or a nearest vacancy possible, for example. On the other side, the technology enables a lot of electric mobility. Our charging stations are unmanned in nature. You can use our app, or you can simply drive up to a station, scan the QR code, make the payment, and charge it by yourself.
Do you also see it becoming faster? Because that's, the other question mark. Do I want to wait 25 minutes to charge my vehicle?
Yeah, correct. So we have moved up the curve now. We have started introducing superchargers, which are 240 kilowatt, 180 kilowatt charging stations. In fact, some of our charging stations, or the capacity of charging stations range from 0.5 megawatt to 1.2 megawatt as well, which caters to cars. But we are also building the infra for intercity buses and intercity trucks as well. There are 11 corridors in the south and the west that has been electrified by us with supercharging network for all the three format of vehicles.
Okay, so the future looks completely electric and
Absolutely.
quite charged. Thank you so much, Kartikey, for speaking with us and explaining to us your vision. Big round of applause.
Thank you very much.
For an electrified India. Thank you.